When I was 18, which is so young if you think about it, I moved to Berlin with basically no money and with no idea what I was doing with my life. I hadn't gone to uni and proceeded to learn how to be an adult in one of the craziest cities in Europe. And so I want to share a few nuggets with you. Maybe you're moving to England or maybe you're moving to Germany. And they're two very different places, and I have had the pleasure of living in both and have the pleasure of being from both countries. So this is a lot colder than I thought it would be, and I think I'm going to have to sit inside and talk about this. Yum, I just had a pork pie. Oh, love. I'm going to say Berlin because Germany is not the same as Berlin. I have been telling people this for years. If you want to go to Germany to learn German, don't go to Berlin. Berlin has become incredibly international. English is almost the main language, unless you're living in the outskirts of Berlin with slightly older generations. So really, Berlin is not Germany. Germany is not Berlin. Like if you go to Munich or if you go to a village somewhere, anywhere that's not Berlin, you will be faced with more, unfortunately, more racism, just more prejudice if you're alternative, if you have an interesting style, which is totally fine in Berlin again. Berlin has become incredibly modern and the rest of Germany is still catching up. I say incredibly modern. No, it hasn't. Like this is what I'm going to talk about. There's so much that is still so old fashioned in Berlin. It is wild. Like to the point that they even use fax machines, which is so funny to me. Like I have never even seen a fax machine in my entire life. Like I was born in 1998. So there were fax machines when I was a kid, but I've never seen one. I've never used one. It's not true that I've never seen one because I see them at the doctor's offices in Berlin and stuff. Anyway, so they're not modern, but what I'm saying is that Berlin is a lot more progressive than the rest of Germany. This is why I'm saying Berlin and I'm saying England because I'm well aware of the fact that people move from all over England to go to Berlin. That's what I did. I live near London and I moved to Berlin when I was 18. I am half German, so I had the advantage of language, but I must say that I met so many people who knew hardly any German when they moved, or none at all, and moved from places like Nigeria, England, France, anywhere really, and didn't know German, and they got on just fine. Obviously, it is better to know the language, and there are some great courses in Berlin. I actually used to work for the GLS language school, which is one of the best language schools in Berlin. Obviously, when you move, you need to register. This is one of the most important things. You need to register your your place of residence. Now, this is something that you will find. It's called an Anmeldung if you move to Berlin, and this is something that you will find on a lot of apartment listings. It will say no Anmeldung, which is okay if you're staying for a couple of weeks, but if you're really living there, you need a registered address, and so you need to find a flat that is with Anmeldung. That brings me to my second point. It is, I feel like let's just compare it to London. In London, it's possibly easier to find flats, but it's insanely expensive. Whereas in Berlin, it's incredibly hard to find flats. The market is super oversaturated, so it really is important that you look for a place to live before moving to Berlin. I'm not discouraging anyone from moving to Berlin because it's a great place to live. However, that is the reality. It is really oversaturated. So if you know someone in Berlin, perfect. Try and get a shared flat together. When you look for a flat, they need proof of your income. I only ever lived in shared flats, so maybe I'm not the right person to talk about like how you need to prove of your like income and stuff, but you need to prove your income. You need to be able to put down a deposit of 3 times the rent that they're asking for. And yeah, it's just something that you need to be prepared for if you move to Berlin. Same as if you move to England, like you just need to be prepared financially, which is why I moved back into my parents' house because your girl can't afford London right now. Now, with registering, you have to go on berlin.de where you book your appointment, and they are few and far between, unfortunately. You just have to get up early and go on the website and keep refreshing it and keep trying to find an appointment There is also a number you can call. You can call 115, which is the same thing. Call early in the morning, and to get your appointment. And for me, I always decided it doesn't matter where in Berlin. Like if you're not fussy, if you're able to travel, you could find an appointment, and it could be in like 6 weeks. So if you have like a passport that needs updating or something, you really have to get on it early. So obviously registering your place of residence is really important, and so is deregistering. So if you move places or if you leave the country again, you have to deregister. And what I did for when I moved back to England was actually you can do it by post. You can't do it by post if you're moving to a new flat in Berlin, but you can do it by post if you're just leaving the country. Another thing to do with sort of registering and agencies, if you do lose your job, if you are made redundant, or if you're fired, like I was, just to be real, you do have to register with the unemployment agency, and they, depending on what job you do, like they should be able to help you find new jobs. Like you basically agree to let them help you find new jobs, and therefore you get money from the government. And the money is usually a percentage of what you used to earn at your previous job. For me, it was really difficult because I am a photographer, and there were like about 2 jobs in Berlin for a photographer. So I ended up getting government unemployment money, which is called AG1, Arbeitslosengeld 1, and I continued my business. So I had like a job on the side, lost that job, but I also had my business. So I continued my business, and they do let you do that, but you have to, for the days where you earn more than 100 euros, which is so little as a photographer, you do have to like pause your unemployment money for that day. So you always have to go on the website. They do have a website, and you can log in, which is very modern for Germany, and you can pause your unemployment benefits for that particular day. Another thing that I noticed is that agencies don't love speaking English. Like, I don't mean to bum you guys out, but if you go to the unemployment agency or you go to the doctors or something like that, they tend not to like to speak English. There are obviously exceptions to this, but most of them don't. Okay, another one which pisses off every person in Germany, I think, is that you have to pay a radio fee, or it's called Rundfunk. Now, this is unavoidable. It's not that much money a year, but it is annoying, and they do give you a horrible fine if you don't pay it. And it is frustrating because if you don't have a TV or a radio or anything, then you still have to pay it. But it's just something that's part of life in Germany. And so as soon as you're registered in Germany, you do have to pay that. I mean, it's similar to England, right? With the TV license, you can't watch BBC unless you have a TV license, but it is basically unavoidable in Germany. So the next thing that I'm going to just briefly touch on is, like, obviously in England, health insurance is the NHS unless you are privately insured. And in Germany, health insurance is covered by your employer if you have a regular job. If you have a small job, a mini job, which is 450 euros a month, it's not covered. So then you have to pay your own health insurance. And the unemployment agency does cover your health insurance if you are unemployed, but as soon as you are not employed or you're self-employed, you have to pay for your health insurance yourself, which can get quite expensive. Now, if you're an artist like me, I tried but didn't get through, but you can register with the artists insurance, which is the Künstlersozialkasse. And obviously, like in England, when you move to Berlin, you need to register with a GP. These are called a Hausarzt, and they are your go-to for anything. And you can show up to the doctor without an appointment once you're registered there, but you have to be prepared to sit for a few hours, because like 1 or 2 hours. Because if you don't have an appointment, it just takes a while. But it does mean that if you are sick and you need to go get a doctor's note, you can just go. And there's also a really awesome app. What was it called? I forgot the name. There are some apps where you can go online and get a doctor's note by just calling a doctor on a call instead of going to the office. What was interesting to me is that things like desensitization against allergies, which I had, is covered by health insurance, as well as are some of the allergy tests that you can have and things like that. So my mum said to me when I moved to Germany, make the most of the German health insurance. So make sure you make the most of it, because the NHS is terrible. And I've been in England for the last 3 months again, and I still haven't found a dentist. So yeah, in Germany, it's all a little bit easier when it comes to that. You can find a doctor a lot quicker. When it comes to everyday life, obviously, Germans are very different to the Brits. One of the things that I had to get used to again when I came back to England was that when you go shopping here for groceries, the cashiers are so slow. So if you live in Germany, you will know, or if you've ever been to the supermarket in Germany, you will know that once you've got your stuff at the end, like they will be like pulling it through the cashier so fast. It's almost like a game and you have to be like super fast. And then I came back and the cashier was so slow and I'm like, I actually have somewhere to be. So the good thing is that most supermarkets here in England do have like self checkouts now, which I always use because you really like have to bring time with you if you want to go to a real person in a supermarket. I feel like maybe that's just the Sainsbury's where I always go. It's like they are, I don't know, it's like they're in slow mo. Hi, how are you? Scan this, take it, look at it, scan it. Whereas in Germany, it's literally like boom, 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 just to warn you. Also, it's quite funny because in Berlin, I noticed that in Aldi and in Lidl, they don't have baskets. So either you like bring a bag, you put your stuff in the bag, which is not great, and then you take it out of the bag again at the till, or you get like a box that's empty that's lying around in the supermarket. You put all your stuff in the box, carry it to the till, and then put it in your bag. Yeah, Aldi and Lidl here are definitely next level with baskets. I was so impressed. When you're doing your shopping and stuff, don't be upset in Berlin if people don't talk to you or don't even give you eye contact. It's like it's so normal in England to have small talk, and if you say how are you, like you can actually be like, yeah, I'm all right, la la la. You can actually ask a couple of questions. Whereas I mean, I used to try my best to, I used to challenge myself to smile at people on the street, to say hi, but most people in Germany just find that insanely weird. Obviously, if you go to the villages and the towns that are smaller than Berlin, different again. If you see familiar faces, you do tend to be more friendly, but Germans just don't vibe with small talk. I think the biggest thing that most people will tell you about the difference between anywhere in the UK and Germany or Berlin is that card payment is so much more widely accepted in the UK, and in Germany it's still very much cash is king, which does get annoying because I never had cash on me. So that's definitely something to look out for. I still haven't gotten used to that some places in England literally only take card. And I do worry about the fact that cash is basically hardly ever accepted anymore because I think cash should always still be used. A lot of restaurants and a lot of, if you go and get a doner kebab or if you go to a späti, which is like a kiosk that are open really late, you tend to need cash. And they do sometimes take card, but maybe it's from €5 or something. So it's always good to have cash on you. Spätis are great, like these kiosks, they're great. They're such a vibe. You can get your beers and whatnot and just sit outside them with your friends. And that's a very Berlin thing to do. So it's kind of like a nice, cheap night out, really, in a sense. If you're on the train in Germany, don't be offended if people are staring at you because it's like a blank stare and they're probably not even actually looking at you, but people just in Germany, they just stare and it's very normal. And I realized that after being in Berlin for so long, I did it too. And then I came back and I was like, oh my gosh, I was in the London Underground and I realized that I was staring at people and I thought, oh no, this doesn't fly in England. In England, it's very sort of stare at the floor and look at the adverts above the people, don't make eye contact. I'm not saying English people don't like eye contact, but when you're in the train and you're like sat right opposite people in the underground, it is a bit weird. So yeah, don't be upset if people are staring, especially if you're being loud, if you're being obnoxious, if there's something going on in the train, every head will turn in Berlin. It's very normal. Another thing with public transport is that in Berlin, unlike the UK, they don't have ticket barriers in the train stations. Like in England, you have to scan your ticket before you can even get onto the platform. Whereas in Berlin, you can literally get to the platform, which is nice if you're just trying to meet a friend or something. But it does mean that you have to get your ticket at a machine and make sure that it's validated. You have to like stamp it in. Or you can try to use the app. There are two apps that I tried. It never worked for me, but maybe it will work for you. Is the VBB app and the BVG app. BVG, VBB. They are the apps that for the German trains for the Berlin Underground. The best thing to do though is to get the Deutschland ticket. Now, this is a new ticket that they created. It's like a monthly card and it is a whopping 49 euros. I say whopping as in sarcastically. Every regional train in Germany, for every underground and bus and tram and ferry in Berlin, in every zone, 49 euros. And they just established that like last year or 2 years ago now. And so that was a huge culture shock for me. It was coming back to England and not just being able to hop on a train when I want. I was so used to it, especially with the 49 euro ticket, with the Deutschland ticket, because it meant that I could basically go to the Baltic Sea for free. Or, you know, not for free, but I just didn't have to buy a ticket. I could always just get on a train and just go if I wanted to. I didn't take advantage of that as much as I could have, but that is something that you should do. Now, obviously, that means that you need to have a registered address and you have to get the ticket on a website, but it is so worth it. And that is something that I'm still really upset about. And it's such a major culture shock. All I want to do is just hop on a train to Edinburgh or to Brighton. And then I have to look at prices and it's so expensive. And I'm like, I'm hoping the government comes up with something like that in England too. That would be so nice. Obviously, like, because you don't have a ticket barrier in Berlin, you just have to remember, always have a ticket on you. Because it can be so easy to jump the train. A lot of people do, but there are loads of inspectors and people do get caught. And then it's like a 60 euro fine, I think. And also with buses, like buses are great in Berlin. You can really rely on them. In Berlin, you don't have to, like in England, stick your hand out to get the bus to stop. So you just have to stand on the curb and the bus will stop for you. I've noticed that in England, you tend to need a reservation for restaurants a lot more than you do in Berlin. When I went to London, it was always with reservations. But in Berlin, unless it's like a really fancy restaurant or it's Valentine's Day or something, you can just go to a restaurant and they should have a table for you. I also noticed that in Germany, tipping is a lot more encouraged than in England. I mean, I think we do tip here at restaurants. However, at bars and stuff, I used to tip a lot or just round up the price. And that's not necessarily something that is done here or that I've noticed. But this could be old information because I don't currently drink and I hardly ever go to bars. And another thing, obviously in Berlin, it's a very touristy city. Be aware for pickpockets. They tend to go around going, speak English, and they have like a piece of paper, which is a bit of a dodgy looking form. And then they try and like hold a pen to you and like get you to sign it. And in that time, they tend to pickpocket you. So don't let them talk to you. In summer, Berlin is one of the best places, and it is something that I will miss when summer comes around because there's all these lakes, and the best thing that you can do is just take your bike, take a picnic, and go to the lakes with your friends. And most of them are safe for swimming, and it's just the best time ever. I'm sure that there are so many more things that I could touch on about Berlin, but my throat hurts and I don't have anything else for now. So I hope that you enjoyed this information, and please let me know what your plans are. Ask any further questions in the comments, and good luck whether you are moving to Berlin or moving back like me. I'll see you next time.